Alina Maris hadn't slept in 30 hours. Her eyes were bloodshot, her hands scraped and bruised. But still, she smiled. The settlement of Daraska wasn't much, just a strip of dusty prefabs and shattered glass domes in the middle of a red desert. The war had turned it into a no-man's land, caught between the Varkon Dominion's encroaching forces and the Tyrell Confederacy's desperate defense. Most relief agencies had pulled out weeks ago, but Alina had stayed. She was human, young, unarmed, and to many in the galaxy, completely irrelevant. She moved carefully through the makeshift shelter, checking on her patients, alien children, their skin scaled and shimmering in the low light, huddled together in sleeping piles. A Tyrell mother gave her a weak smile as Alina knelt to hand her a packet of clean water. In return, the alien clutched her wrist with trembling fingers and whispered something in her own tongue. Alina didn't understand the words, but she understood the meaning. Gratitude, fear, hope. She smiled and nodded. "It's okay. We'll get through this." A distant rumble echoed across the sky, low and ominous like a giant exhaling. The lights flickered. Alina stood slowly, her face tightening. That wasn't thunder. That was an atmospheric breach. She tapped her comm. "Command, this is Maris. Do we have incoming?" Static. She stepped outside, shielding her eyes from the sand-laced wind. The horizon glowed unnaturally. Burning thruster trails. 4 ships, no insignia. Black hulls. Fast approach vectors. Her heart dropped. "They're not supposed to be here," she muttered. "This is a neutral zone." She ran back inside. "Everyone down now. Under the med tables. Get to this cellar if you can." The children screamed. One cried out for her in broken Galactic Basic. "Miss Alina. Miss Elena." And she turned just in time to catch the tiny figure barreling toward her. She grabbed him, shielding him with her body as the first missile hit. The blast didn't level the shelter, but the shockwave tore through the walls like paper. Alina was thrown back. Pain exploded through her shoulder, and her ears rang with the high-pitched shriek of ruptured pressure seals. Dust filled the air. She didn't let go of the child. A second blast. Closer, the roof cracked and groaned. Something heavy collapsed nearby. Alina coughed hard, vision blurring. She pushed herself up just enough to cover the boy's body with her own again, curling around him like a shield. She didn't feel the third explosion. When the dust settled, she was still holding him. And she was gone. They found her body hours later, when the Tyrell defenders finally pushed the raiders back. She had shielded 4 children. Every one of them lived. No one knew which side fired the missile. No one claimed responsibility. To the galaxy, it was just another casualty in a war without end. But the story of the human who died protecting alien children, without a gun, without a uniform, would not die with her. Not this time. The official report listed her name in a single line of text. Maris Alina, human, civilian aid worker, deceased. No memorial, no inquiry, no trial. Just silence. The Interstellar Accord issued a brief statement offering condolences for all casualties on Daraska. Neither the Varkon Dominion nor the Tyrell Confederacy acknowledged her death. Their spokespeople danced around the question of who launched the strike, each blaming the other, each shrugging at the cost. And the galaxy moved on. For 3 days, her name faded into the noise, until someone uploaded her final transmission. It wasn't official. It wasn't even meant for public broadcast. Just a tired, impromptu journal log recorded hours before the attack. No lighting, no uniform, just Alina Maris, dark circles under her eyes, sitting on a cot with a cracked datapad in her lap. "If you're seeing this, I probably didn't make it. I just want you to know. I don't regret staying. Not for 1 second. These people, these kids, they didn't start this war. They don't even understand it. But they know kindness. They laugh when I teach them songs. They help me sort rations, even when they're starving. I'm not here because I'm a soldier. I'm here because someone had to be. Her voice wavered at the end, but she smiled anyway. A quiet, tired smile that had seen too much and still chose hope. The video was posted anonymously to a small human forum. But within hours, it was shared, reposted, translated, and retranslated into hundreds of languages. By the next cycle, it had gone interstellar. Alien streamers played it on loop with subtitles. Human artists painted tributes, drawing her surrounded by alien children beneath a collapsing sky. The Galactic Pulse Network aired a live segment titled The Human Flame. Why one aid worker is breaking hearts across the stars. Even in places where humans were barely tolerated, Alina's words cut through politics and prejudice. On the Skara trade ring, a veteran Varkun medic watched the video in silence, then walked into his barracks and placed his officer's badge on the table. On a Tyrell refugee station, an elder called for a day of mourning. She fed our young when our own leaders abandoned us, he said. She died like one of us. No, better. Hashtags began trending on the Galactic mesh. Hashtag Justice for Lina. Hashtag One Human Light. Hashtag Shistade. The Human Colonial Network issued a statement demanding an investigation. Earth's ambassador to the Accord filed a formal request for accountability. The Accord declined, again citing inconclusive data. The message was clear: a human life still wasn't worth the trouble. But this time, the silence didn't smother the fire. It fed it. In cities across human space, candlelit vigils sprang up. On colony worlds, people wore orange, a color Alina often wore while working, to honor her memory. The Maris Fund, started by a group of aid workers and soldiers, began collecting credits for war victims. And in the shadows, people began to whisper, if justice won't be given, what happens when humanity takes it for themselves? The ashes of one woman's sacrifice were beginning to stir, and the galaxy was watching. 3 weeks after Alina Maris's death, the galaxy had a new obsession. The story of the lone human aid worker who gave her life for alien children had become more than a headline. It was a lit match dropped into a powder keg of unspoken truths. The galactic public, long desensitized to civilian deaths, couldn't shake her face. The tired eyes, the soft voice, the haunting clarity of her message. She had no uniform, no flag, no gun, and somehow that made her death impossible to forget. In human space, entire cities erupted into protest. On Mars, thousands marched in silence, holding holographic candles. On Europa, Alina's name was carved into the ice in kilometer-wide script, visible from orbit. News feeds called it the start of a new human era. Artists dubbed her the Flame of Duraska. But what no one expected, what shook the Accord, was the wave of sympathy coming from non-human worlds. In the Tyrell capital of Shanur, alien children drew pictures of a smiling human with outstretched arms. A Varkun monk lit a ceremonial pyre and spoke her name aloud, breaking centuries of custom. Even members of species who had never allied with humans, some who had fought against them, began to echo a common refrain. She stayed. Yet while the masses mourned, the powerful mocked. At a Varkun military summit, leaked footage caught a general laughing. A human aid worker. What was she expecting? Gratitude. This is war. She was just in the way. The clip spread faster than her final message. Outrage detonated across every system. The Varkun scrambled to control the damage, claiming the footage was out of context and deeply regrettable. But the damage was done. Alina's name transformed. No longer just a tragedy, she became a symbol. Of innocence, yes, but also of fury. In human space, the Maris Doctrine was proposed, a declaration that no human life lost in service of peace would go unavenged. It wasn't official. Not yet, but the language spread like wildfire. Backdoor chatter within military circles hinted at something big, larger than normal fleet drills. Strategic redeployments near Varkun territory. Supply chains stretching. Volunteers surging. And while Earth's leaders spoke the language of peace, retired Admiral Rivencourt, one of the few humans ever to command an Accord joint fleet, appeared on public broadcast and said coldly, "You can't strike a match in a dry forest and be surprised when it burns." Still, the Interstellar Accord refused to act. They issued another hollow statement. The loss of life is regrettable. Investigations are ongoing. We urge all systems to remain calm. Calm was no longer an option. Humanity had asked. Humanity had waited. Now, across every network, one phrase echoed louder than the rest. One human died. What happens next is up to the galaxy. And deep in the orbital docks of Titan's shipyards, the first of the old warships began to power up again, silent giants awakening from slumber. The world wasn't just watching anymore. It was waiting. The ultimatum was clear. Earth's ambassador to the Interstellar Accord stood before the Council in the silver glass chamber of Virex Prime, her voice sharp as a laser. You have 30 days to identify the responsible party. 30 days to deliver justice for Elena Maris, or we will pursue it ourselves. Her words hung in the air like a blade, but the council chambers were silent. 30 days came and went. No names, no arrests, no accountability. Humanity withdrew from all joint peacekeeping operations within the Accord. Medical transports turned around mid-flight. Embassies closed. Ambassadors left quiet farewell messages. At first, the galaxy assumed it was bluster, that humanity would fume, posture, and move on. That Elena's death, like so many before it, would fade into background noise. But behind the silence, something ancient was stirring. In a Black Ops installation beneath the Andes, a man stared at a weathered photograph. Elena's smile, his arm around her shoulder. A sunlit field, years ago. A lifetime ago. Captain Darren Holt, former Special Operations Commander of the Terran Intervention Force, had refused every recall order since the last Galactic War. He had lost friends, lost faith, lost too much. But now he had a reason. Elena had been his best friend, his compass. She believed in mercy, even when he only saw chaos. She stayed behind when others fled. She died helping those no one else would. And someone had dared to laugh about it. Darren stood in the war room as data flickered across the holotable. Intercepted communications, black market weapon shipments, falsified coordinates, threads pulled tight across space, all of it pointing to one conclusion. It wasn't an accident, he said. They planned it. Her death was part of a stress test, an evaluation of civilian reaction thresholds. The Varkun hadn't just allowed the bombing. They had orchestrated it. The orders were buried under 1,000 layers of redacted files and deleted drones, but they were there. He and his team, ghosts, the best of Earth's unseen warriors, were going to drag the truth into the light. While the diplomats spun their wheels, Darren's team moved quietly from system to system, gathering evidence, pulling favors, calling in debts older than the war itself. They weren't alone. Across human space, war veterans signed back in. Engineers reactivated defense grids that hadn't lit up in decades. Volunteers surged into training facilities. Civilian hackers lit up the net, cracking Accord archives wide open. And all the while, Earth's surface remained quiet. No grand speeches, no declarations of war, just a growing hum of energy, like the breath before a storm. Alien allies warned their governments. Something's coming, they whispered. They're preparing. And they were right. In the void between stars, the Vigilant Resolve, one of Earth's legendary dreadnoughts, came back online. Its engines rumbling like a sleeping god awakened. The silence wasn't a retreat. It was the drawing of a blade. Humanity had waited long enough. And now, justice was coming. The Vigilant Resolve exited slipspace like a thunderclap. No fanfare, no broadcasted intent, just presence, massive, silent, and unmistakably human. She hung in orbit over the Varkun-controlled world of Barillax, her hull blackened by age and battle, her weapons systems fully armed. For 24 hours, she did nothing. The Varkun dismissed it as posturing. A ghost ship from a forgotten war, too old to pose a real threat. They mocked its design on their news streams. A commentator laughed. Is this what humanity brings? A relic. Then came the broadcast. It wasn't a demand. It wasn't a declaration. It was a recording. Elena's voice, her final message, played across every channel in the system, every comm line, every civilian datapad, every military frequency. No encryption, no signature. These people didn't start this war. They don't even understand it. But they know kindness. The galaxy had heard it before. But this time, it played on a loop, accompanied by the names and faces of every known Varkun official involved in the raid on Duraska 4. Then the resolve moved. It struck a Varkun data station in low orbit, a military intelligence hub linked directly to the Duraska operation. It didn't destroy it. It surgically removed its communication arrays and weapon systems, leaving the station intact but helpless. Within minutes, human operatives boarded. They didn't wear flags. They didn't say a word. They walked through stunned corridors, disabling systems and collecting data cores, bypassing every Varkun security measure, like they were opening old doors in a familiar house. By the time the Accord scrambled a response team, it was over. The resolve vanished into slip space, silent as it had come. The galaxy lost its mind. The Varkun Dominion screamed violation of interstellar law. Earth denied official involvement, citing non-state actors. The Interstellar Accord launched an emergency session, but found themselves paralyzed, half their own member species quietly cheering the strike. Because deep down, they all knew this wasn't terrorism. It was precision, it was restraint, it was a warning. But humanity was no longer interested in talking. In secret forums, exiled diplomats began to whisper the name of a plan long buried in rumor. Project Ashwake, a human doctrine built during the last war, never used, sealed after the peace accords. Its premise was simple. If you strike at humanity's heart, they will burn down your gods to light a candle in the dark. No demands, no mercy, no endless negotiations. Just consequences. Captain Darren Holt and his team now had more than enough evidence to implicate high-ranking Varkun officials. But trials would take years. Red tape would bury the truth. So he made a choice. He released the files. All of it. Names, orders, intercepted transmissions, and a personal message to the galaxy. You wanted silence. You wanted us to forget. But you didn't kill a soldier. You killed a symbol. And now we answer. In the days that followed, 3 more Varkun installations went dark. No casualties. No warning. Just silence. And the growing, awful realization that humanity had stopped asking for justice. They were taking it. The third strike was the loudest. The Varkun communications relay over Kelterran Prime, a hardened satellite array, considered untouchable due to its orbital defenses, blinked off the grid at 3:14 Standard Galactic Time. No explosions, no casualties, just a moment of static, and then silence. When investigators arrived, they found every system offline, every power conduit fused, and every terminal looped to a single repeating image. Elena Maris, smiling, holding the hand of a small alien child. Beneath it, 3 words. She stayed. We remember. The Varkun response was swift and furious. They scrambled fleets, declared Earth a rogue state, demanded immediate sanctions from the Interstellar Accord. They claimed these attacks were acts of terrorism, that humanity was destabilizing the region, that Elena's death, however tragic, didn't justify galactic chaos. But the Accord was no longer united. Half its members refused to vote. A quarter issued statements of strategic neutrality, and a growing alliance of smaller systems, many once under Varkun pressure, began publicly praising humanity's precision. No mass civilian deaths. No planetary bombardments. Just strikes on infrastructure and command nodes, the same systems that allowed the raid on Duraska 4 to happen. The message was undeniable. Humanity hadn't come to conquer. They'd come to remind. Captain Darren Holt stood aboard the Vigilant Resolve, watching the streams flood in. Protests on alien worlds in support of Earth. A Tyrell senator calling Elena a galactic martyr. Even a Varkon dissident broadcasting from exile, demanding reform and honoring the human who had died protecting our forgotten children. "This isn't just about her anymore," said Holt to his crew. "This is about everyone the galaxy decided didn't matter. We were just the first to say no more." Behind him, the ship's AI pulsed softly. "Tar GT lo Sikis ready. Fourth Strike in Range." He didn't give the order. Not yet. Instead, he opened the encrypted channel, the one known only to human command, buried deep in the protocols of Project Ashwake. "Initiate Directive Flame Echo." The reply was immediate. Across human space, assets went active. Sleeper cells, listening posts, cyber ghosts buried inside Accord systems, ships repositioned. Civilians were quietly evacuated from colonies near Varkon borders. Earth itself remained eerily quiet. No war drums, no public declarations. But behind the silence, a storm was unfolding. And still, there was no remorse from the Varkon. Their high commander, Veros Thrin, appeared in a broadcast denouncing Earth's actions. "We do not bow to threats. We do not fear ghosts. If the humans want war, they will be buried in it." But his eyes betrayed something else. A flicker. Not fear. Something colder. Recognition. He understood now. This wasn't vengeance driven by politics. It wasn't a show of dominance. It was memory, sharpened into a blade. The humans hadn't launched a war. They had ignited a reckoning. And with every quiet, precise strike, the galaxy began to understand. They weren't just fighting for Elena Maris. They were fighting for the idea of her. And ideas, once awakened, don't die quietly. The Varkon called it the Hour of Black Suns. It began with lights flickering across 6 core systems. Not bombs, not invasions, just darkness. Power grids failed. Defense satellites lost sync. I-cores crashed, locked in infinite loops, all carrying a message buried inside their code. Directive Flame Echo. Justice acknowledged. Compliance overdue. Within seconds, entire Varkon fleets were blind. The next phase wasn't military. It was memory. Hacked broadcasts overtook galactic networks. Unedited footage of the aftermath of Duraska 4. The children. The cratered aid station. Elena's Churd datapad being recovered from the rubble by alien volunteers. Then her final words, layered beneath images of the silent, non-lethal strikes Earth had delivered over the past month. And finally, the names of the Varkon officials responsible, blinking one by one as the words, "No more hiding," burned in red below. Across the galaxy, systems once afraid to speak now roared. Tyrell colonies began mass protests, demanding their leaders cut ties with the Dominion. On the fringes of the Varkon Empire, planetary governors, long resentful of the Central Command, started defecting. One by one, they opened their airspace to human relief ships, flying orange banners in memory of the woman who died trying to help their people. Still, Earth remained silent. No press conferences, no leader appearing on camera. Just precision. Just justice. The interstellar accord finally caved. In an emergency session, the Council declared the Varkon responsible for the attack on Duraska 4. For the first time in recorded history, a member species was formally sanctioned without unanimous approval. Varkon Ambassador Drovik stormed out of the chamber, snarling. "You fools just gave humanity a license to burn down the stars." No one followed him. Because they all knew Earth didn't want conquest. They wanted closure. But Earth was also done waiting. That same hour, Captain Darren Holt and the Vigilant Resolve appeared at the edge of the Varkon home system, accompanied by a formation of cloaked ships. Earth's forgotten fleet. Ships believed decommissioned. Hidden. Ghosts. They hailed the system. No demands. No threats. Just a countdown. 10 minutes. The galaxy held its breath. The Varkon panicked, scrambled their fractured fleets, only to find their command relays already sabotaged. Ground-to-orbit comms jammed, their defense grid offline. And in the middle of that chaos, Holt spoke one final time. "We didn't come to destroy your world. We came to show you what mercy looks like when it's earned. You denied her justice. Now you will face the memory of the one you tried to erase." Then the Resolve launched a single payload. A data beacon. It struck the Varkon capital, not with fire, but with truth. The full, unaltered archive of Daraska 4. Inside it, evidence of a shadow war, hidden orders, and the names of every official who authorized the bombing. It detonated across their networks like a cultural implosion. Civilians took to the streets. Military factions split. Old rivalries reignited. Systems once united by fear now spiraled into revolt. Humanity hadn't fired a single shot at the capital. They hadn't needed to. They lit a match and let the lies burn. The reckoning had come, and the void remembered. The Varkon dominion fractured within days. Their capital descended into chaos, not from bombardment, but from truth. Millions of citizens, long kept in the dark, learned of the atrocities carried out in their name. Protests became riots. Riots became revolts. The chain of command snapped like a dry branch under pressure. And through it all, Earth's ships stood at the edge of the system, watching, waiting. Not one fired a weapon. No cities burned. No worlds fell. Humanity had made its point, not through devastation, but discipline. The galaxy had expected rage. Instead, it witnessed something far more terrifying. Control. Captain Darren Holt stood aboard the Vigilant Resolve, eyes locked on the streams pouring in. Varkon generals surrendering to their own people. Dissidents forming a transitional council. A movement rising from the ashes, not born of fear, but of remembrance. Behind him, the ship's AI pulsed with a final transmission request. He nodded. Broadcast it. The message went live across every open galactic channel. No threats. No conditions. Just a recording of Elena Maris. This time, not her death, but her life. Her teaching children in a refugee tent. Her laughter as she danced with alien villagers under 2 suns. Her words in an old interview. "You don't help people to be remembered. You help because someone has to be first to say, 'You matter.'" When the feed ended, a new banner spread across the networks, uploaded by millions, human and alien alike. She stayed. We remember. And the galaxy did. The interstellar accord restructured within weeks. The Varkon were suspended indefinitely. Human ambassadors were asked, not ordered, to return, their presence requested by worlds once suspicious of Terran influence. But Earth declined. Not out of spite, out of purpose. For the first time in generations, humanity stepped back from the galactic stage, not in retreat, but in principle. Aid ships still flew. Refugee convoys were still protected. But the fleets, the firepower, it was returned to orbit, locked down, stored in silence. The message was clear. We don't want to lead. We want you to remember why we acted. So you never force anyone else to. On Daraska 4, where it had all begun, the crater was transformed. The ruins of the aid station became a monument, built not by humans, but by the children Elena once protected. Half-grown now, they painted her likeness across stone and crystal, lit eternal flames, and welcomed every species to walk among her memory. At the monument's base, a plaque written in every known language. One human died. And because of her, the stars learned to listen. Captain Holt left the Resolve not long after. He never returned to command. But sometimes, they say, when a human aid ship lands on a war-torn world, or when a forgotten species is welcomed back into the Accord, you can still hear her voice in the comm static. Soft, steady, they matter. And so they remember. The flame she lit did not burn down the galaxy. It lit the way forward.